All right, you clicked on it. You want to know how much does it actually cost to start a supplement brand? You've heard 5,000 from your cousin, your neighbor told you 50, ChatGPT says anywhere from 10 to 95,000. Well, here's the real answer. Okay, you ready for this? You can write it down. It depends. So I know it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but we'll get into it. We'll explain a little bit of why it depends, and what factors go into it. Now, you're starting a supplement brand. Really, how much it's going to cost will vary depending on what your ultimate goals are. If you're really trying to stay cheap and find a way into the market to test your product, to do certain things, there's ways that you can figure it out. And realistically, you might be able to get away with 10,000, 5,000. You might be able to buy the product for 5,000. You're going to be sacrificing a lot for that. So maybe 10, depending on what products you're doing, where you're getting them from. And if you've got an awesome hero product and you want to explode into the market and really attack it head on, I mean, you could be pushing 60, 70, 80. So it really does vary, and it will change a lot as you start to make your plan. But the more important thing is that you have a plan. And so I'm going to talk to you real quickly. Again, this is a very brief video on how much it would cost, real quickly on some of the primary factors that go into your plan and your product. First is the form. Okay. So I say form because there's two things we need to think about. There's the format and the formula. I'll explain this more deeply in a later video, but that's essentially what is the format that your supplement is going to be in: capsule, gummy, stick pack, drink mix, whatever. And then the formula, what ingredients are in it, who developed the formula, certain things like that. So after you've decided your form, you're going to also need to know your manufacturing plan. So I'm going to put down co-man on there. The manufacturing plan is going to vary a little bit depending on what you're going for. And again, you can go very complicated, big, large batches, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to cost you more out of pocket, less per unit. Or you can go extremely small, have the cheapest out of pocket, generally going to be more per unit. But the one thing that I'll counsel you aggressively on right now with your co-man, and that means co-manufacturer, sorry, with your manufacturer, what level of quality do they have? Typically, this is a very general statement, you're going to find that larger manufacturers, due to the nature of them being around longer, them having more resources, are going to have a more robust quality system than some of your smaller, you'll hear them as like boutique or kitchen style manufacturers. That's not exclusively true. I have met some larger manufacturers that struggle with quality, and I've met some small manufacturers that are awesome. You'll find some unicorns that might be small and have good quality. I would say we're a medium that has good quality, but they are out there. You just need to do your digging, and that brings it into quality. I'm going to say this a few times. Do not sacrifice quality. Do not sacrifice quality. Don't do it. The reason being is that if you sacrifice quality, you're going to have really two major issues on your hand. One, your brand value to your consumer is eventually going to be found out as crap. And so you really want to maintain a high quality product so that your brand is trustworthy. Two, you might open yourself up for regulatory issues. So you might have recalls. You might have, right now in the news, this is early mid 2026. I'm seeing a lot more recalls on products because suppliers are doctoring their product. They're having fillers to make it cheaper to manufacture. And so you've got to make sure that there are quality systems in place. Then we'll talk more about this in a later video. There are quality systems in place that maintain your product integrity. And fourth is distribution. So the distrib. How are you going to get it to your customers? How are you going to maintain inventory? Are you going to pay somebody else to maintain inventory? Are you going to do it yourself in your garage? Are you going to sell on Amazon? Are you going to create an e-commerce store? There's a whole bunch of different methods that you can use to do this. The simpler, um, the faster generally, but also a lot of times the more expensive because the more outsourcing you're going to have to do. And so that all comes into our last one, and we'll put this in the middle. Need a little underline. The wiggle is your brand. Okay. So your brand, what I mean by that is how are you going to market your product? What are you going to try and build as far as the following around your brand? And all of these things, your format, formula, your manufacturing process, your quality, don't sacrifice quality, and your distribution channels are all going to impact your brand, how people see your brand. Um, and we can get super complicated in some of this. I don't really want to spend the time right now to break each of these down independently. So go watch some of my other videos on those. But let's talk about a couple of scenarios here. So if you are thinking, I've got an idea, but I don't really have it flushed out. I know you watch a family member who might struggle with cognitive problems, and you've seen them decline, and it touched your heartstrings, and you're like, I want to go help create some more impact within this industry. Do your research, you find a couple of general ingredients that you think are really helpful, but you really don't know. You don't have a ton of money. You just want to test the market. You are going to be on the cheaper side up front, but you're going to have a smaller inventory, and so your return is going to be smaller, right? So here's your path. You're going to go to a co-man, a manufacturer that already has a white label, meaning they've created a product. They have the ingredients and formulas in that particular format ready to go. They manufacture a lot at a time. You come along, you say, I want to buy 500, 1,000, 2,000 units, and then you put your brand on it. They help you design your label. You put your brand on it. Now you have a couple thousand units. You're going to go test the market. Remember, you're trying to do this cheap. And so you might be keeping them in your garage, maybe selling them on Amazon independently, or you could be taking them to a farmer's market. I don't know. There's many ways that you can get creative and you can do some guerrilla style marketing, save a ton of money. You might be flirting around with the $5 per unit, $10 per unit, so a few $1,000s, 5 to 10 to 20,000, and you're getting into it. Now let's say scenario on the exact opposite end. You were on vacation. You found this super cool mushroom product, and you're like, I need that. That's affected all kinds of things with my health. I need to bring it back to my local market. You're going to have to find that ingredient, find a supplier, work with a manufacturer who's going to help you private label this, which means that you are going to have to develop a formula with them. That's probably not super well known. And so your marketing is going to be a little more expensive. You're going to have to really spend some time on quality to ensure that you maintain the highest quality that you can, especially with suppliers and distribution. If you're going to be spending all of this money and time in developing this product, you probably want, and you're going to have to order a larger volume. Your distribution is going to be more complicated. You might not have the space in your garage. You might have to use a distribution partner. And so that one could very well, after your formulation costs, your manufacturing costs, your quality reviews, your distribution channels, you may be more in the $50,000-$60,000 range, depending on what the material costs. And generally, material is not going to be your biggest constraint. And again, all of this you can play on a spectrum. You can be anywhere in between both ends of this. And so, watch some of my other videos. Figure out what paths you want. Generally, I would say simpler is better, unless you are doing it for the third time or you have experience bringing other product to market. Then go a little more complicated, because you'll be able to get a cheaper cost per unit and your margins will be better. But if you have any questions, you want to chat through an idea, you want to go anything like that, reach out. Let's talk. We do some level of formulation. If not, I'm pretty well connected. We can get you set up with the right people to help develop your product. But there's no reason to not to. If you've got 20 grand, you can get creative and launch a good product. If you already know a product and you've got 100,000 and you're ready to go, awesome, go crush it. These are just some tips. Get into the specifics, make a plan, think through it. reach out if you need help. Good luck.